Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Human Dog 1732 and it says, "Am I the arsehole for ruining family therapy? My 18 female mum died when I was 7. My father, aka step-sibling's dad, remarried a year later. His new wife had 3 kids. A, 8 male, B, 6 male, C, 3 female. He said she wanted a dad for her kids and he wanted a mum for me. I remember telling him that I didn't want a new mum. He said I would understand later. My step-sibling's dad basically stopped doing anything alone with me. No more camping nights in the backyard or movie nights, which we had done every week for years. Nothing. He spent time with all his new kids to bond. It's been 11 years and he still doesn't have time for me because he's bonding with them. He stopped coming to my games when I got to high school. His wife and I have nothing in common. I play 3 sports and I'm on the speech team. She's very girly and likes girl trips to buy clothes and makeups at different malls. She knows I don't want to go, but just tells my step-sibling's dad that she invited me. I have a teammate I play 2 sports with. Her parents have become like my own. She said she is totally fine with it. I make sure all the time because I don't want to take someone else's parents. She's always the one to invite me over, bring her parents to my swim meets because she knows no one will be there for me. Invited me to go shopping for Mother's and Father's Day gifts and says they're both from us. Her parents get me holiday gifts and say that I'm always welcome. Senior night at basketball. I told her my step-sibling's dad isn't going to walk me around the floor because he doesn't even come to games. She asked her dad to walk with both of us and he was happy to. In a small town, that made the paper because they thought it was sweet. My step-sibling's dad flipped out and took us all to therapy. He asked why he hadn't been asked. I said because he didn't come to games. He said he didn't know I played basketball anymore. I asked if that's why he didn't come to swim or softball, but he couldn't miss A and B's practices, or come to speech meets when he went to C's dance recitals. He just stared at me and said he didn't know I still did those either. I asked why he talked for days about B's camping trip, but didn't ask about my senior trip to Mexico. He said he didn't know I went. I said he signed the form. He admitted he didn't read it. I asked if he remembered the last time I called him dad. He said he didn't know I stopped. I said May 13th, 2021. He said that was the day A, B, and C started. I said I know. You stopped being my dad when you started being theirs. I walked out of therapy. Edit. I played all 3 since I was a toddler, so I'm not sure why he thought I stopped. He never asked why I came home a couple of hours after practice or went out on weekends for game days. When I talked about games, he said I thought I was just playing with friends because all my friends play. OP then said that their update got deleted and said, basically I'm getting some info on my trust and belongings it paid for. My friend's dad tried to confront my step-sibling's dad about why I can't go over anymore, but he just shut the door on him. And I check in daily with my friend or her parents via phone. My step-siblings are all mad at both their parents and are being very supportive. Someone suggested to OP explaining to her father how she feels about him and her friend's family, and then says, I'm more angry that I have to miss practices for therapy, and now that I'm no longer allowed over to my friend's house because they're a bad influence. I'm happy he found his new family and I found mine. I'd be content with going no contact with them to have my real family back. I miss them so much. When I told him I felt like I lost my family, he cried and said he understood, then got mad and yelled at me when I told him I meant the family I had for the last few years, not him. Someone was questioning how does he not know she still does sports. OP said I paid for the sports registration equipment out of the trust my mum left me. I just had to go to the bank and write out a request and the next day I'd pick up the money. He said if I wanted him there, I should have given a schedule. I told him that I don't understand why he would think I just stopped playing all the sports I had since I was a toddler and that he didn't get schedules from my step-siblings. He got them himself. Then he just got mad and walked out. Someone questioned about how did her dad not know she went to Mexico, and how did OP get a passport without a parent? OP said, I had to have a form signed at the beginning of the year for numbers planning for the teacher. I was 17. I got my passport after my birthday before the trip and paid for it out of my mum's trust fund. He knew I went on a trip, but didn't know where to. Gee whiz. OP then says, I'll probably do an update soon, but basically I'm not allowed to go to my friend's house anymore, because he says her parents are a bad influence. He says I never told him anything about what I did, so he shouldn't be expected to know. His wife says she just wanted a dad for her kids and it isn't her fault, which is true. My step-siblings have been nice and said they thought he knew about my games and would be totally okay with him skipping theirs to come to my remaining games. They've been more mad at him than anything else and told him if he can't go to mine, then he doesn't need to go to theirs. And he said they were being brats, but they don't care. Currently, so far, you're not ruining family therapy. You're telling him exactly how you feel, which is the correct thing to do. He needs to know the truth, but he seems to not accept the truth. He wants to turn it all back around on you. He's missed your practices. Oh, that's probably a you problem because you didn't tell him, in his mind, of course. He didn't know about the Mexico trip. Oh, you didn't tell him again. Just totally shirking his responsibility as a parent. But OP came in with their update and says, update because a lot of people were worried about me not being able to get my things from my bio father's house and going back to therapy. Turns out it's not even necessary. After my last post, my stepmother, SM, wanted us all to go to the lake house. That's her happy place, safe space and sanctuary. She says it's her answer to everything. Once the boys out, she sends my bio father and her sons to the lake house. Time with her daughter, lake house. Time alone, lake house by herself. She does photography there and she's right. It does look like a postcard. 2-story cabin style. They never took me for girls trips or boys trips, only when everyone went together. My step-siblings won't call bio-father dad anymore. My stepmother said, if he isn't their dad and she isn't my mum, why are they even married? Bio-father asked if she wanted a divorce and she said she didn't sign up for the drama. They argued and we went to hang out by the lake. We've been getting along great now against the parents, which I didn't see coming. Anyway, we went back to therapy yesterday and my stepsis brought up that they're getting divorced. My father said, not if they can work it out in therapy. Therapist asked if it could be amicable because it's obvious they're cold to each other. Stepmother said her kids could see bio-father, but she would just want her place. He said that wasn't possible because it's actually mine because my mum had it before they were married and it's part of the prenup. Stepmother was livid and ugly cried, mad all the way home. They asked about the house we live in. Bio-father tried to get her out of the kitchen, but she screamed and he admitted that my grandma gave it to my mum as a wedding gift before they were married. Turns out he won't let me move out because the house is actually mine since I turned 18. She said split the savings because they've been living way below their means. He told her that most of the savings / certificates of deposits were accounts set up for me by mum's parents. She's been crying in her room and says I'm selfish for not letting her have the lake house my great-grandpa built and gave it to my grandpa who gave it to my mum. Wild Black Hat says on the back of this, what in the world? So she never put a cent towards those and somehow never asked herself in all those years how the assets would be split in the event of a divorce? OP says I doubt she ever thought about divorce until last week. Everything kind of exploded. Since they don't have a prenup, she probably thought she got half of everything. OP came in with another update and said a lot of people have been asking about how things are going. Way more than I expected, so here we go. I'm about to leave for college. Yay! As of right now, my bio-father and his wife, for now, are still living in my house and paying rent. I got a lawyer and they suggested retroactive rent as well. This will only go back to my 18th birthday, and I officially own the house. My lawyer got me in touch with a good accountant that he uses for cases like this, who went over everything that is in my trust and savings with a person at the bank who oversaw giving me my allowances from my trust. My bio-father hadn't taken any money directly from my accounts because they were unavailable until I turned 18, except for the one I used for daily use. Even so, I'm not worried about those. I did learn more about the property that I own. This actually came out before the lawyer and accountant because my stepmother wanted some other property that's mine. There is a beach house she wanted and a small house that gets rented out, and the money goes to one of my accounts. She was furious she doesn't get either. She and my bio-father bicker, and honestly it's hilarious. Example, her, "Why didn't you ever tell me that none of the money was yours?" Bio-father replied, "If money was so important to you, why didn't you ever get a job?" Opie continues, "Also, I may get their cars because my bio-father had terrible credit and used my house to get a loan as collateral. Same with the boat. She's a lot madder than him. My step-siblings don't even speak to my bio-father anymore because they feel like he made them the bad guys. And I told them he didn't, and it wasn't their fault at all." Then there was a couple of questions from OP. Someone says, "Are you able to see your bestie and her family again?" OP says, "Yep, I visit with them a lot. There's really nothing he can do to stop me now. He can say that I can't take anything from the house, but since it's my house, that isn't a problem anymore." Condition Big says, "Maybe you should invite your friend and her family over for dinner. I'd love to hear about your father's reaction to that." OP says, "I don't live in the house anymore, so I don't eat dinner there either." I'm not sure if it's a worry or not, but it certainly popped into my head as a worry that he's taking out loans against your property for stuff that he wants. I think with the way that you've been treated, it's certainly time. I'm not sure how it actually all works, but to start putting some boundaries on your property, of course. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Gemini Georgie, who says, "Me, 23 female, dating 26 male. He keeps making Game of Thrones themed negs towards me. Am I overreacting?" We are both Game of Thrones fans, and I love banter about it with Paul, who I've been dating for 2 months. I really like him and he is super sweet. However, his quotes are becoming really demeaning, and I feel like he is negging me. Am I overreacting? When we were at a friend's party, Paul said towards a group of mainly a few of my friends, Paul says about me, Sarah, in front of them. We have our differences, Sarah and I. She is braver, I am better looking. This was really embarrassing for me because I think some of them didn't get the reference, and now think the guy I'm dating doesn't think I'm that good looking. Another occasion we were making out, and Paul whispered in my ear in a silly voice, "You have less honor than a back alley whore." I got really angry because I didn't recognize that it was a quote from Game of Thrones. I just jumped up from the couch and he said, "Chill out, it's a Game of Thrones quote from such and such episode." I told him that I was really upset and I'm leaving his house now, and he just replied with, "I'm Sansa Stark of Winterfell. This is my home and you can't frighten me." That was it. It was like he had no remorse for what he had done and just thinks upsetting me is funny. I haven't answered his texts or calls since. It's been 2 days. Am I overreacting? So Jilbo Wagon says to OP in quotes, "I told him that I was really upset and is leaving his house now, and he just replied with, 'I'm Sansa Stark of Winterfell, this is my home and you can't frighten me.' And then says joking references are one thing. You don't have to be the three-eyed raven to see that when your girlfriend is legitimately upset and about to leave your house, it's time to knock it the fuck off and actually listen to her." OP says, "I agree. After I left, he texts saying, 'Look, love, it's just my sense of humor. Do you really want to be with a guy who has no personality and watches shit TV shows?' He then sent another text today saying, 'Much offended,' followed straight away by, 'Okay, I'm sorry.' I don't even know what to think about these texts. Jaina says Arya Stark would tell you this guy belongs on a list of people too stupid to date. Sansa Stark agrees and would like to know if you'd care to borrow a dog. Adequate Lay says he sounds like he should wear a fedora, to be honest. Opie says he owns a fedora, but I've never seen him wear it. Luckily. Sinella says, oh come on, haven't we reached peak loser status yet? Sometimes we don't know why someone is single, and other times we know exactly why. So OP came in with an update and said a mate of Paul's saw this post on r/relationships homepage and has sent it to him. It turns out I don't no longer need to worry about if I overreacted because I've been dumped. I might leave this up just a bit longer just to annoy him, now seeing he has blocked me anyway. He Facebook messaged me saying, "A friend has just linked me a post on Reddit relationship advice page that you wrote about me. I get that you're upset by the joke that I made, but you've handled this whole situation terribly. I'm disgusted that I was dating someone who had ridiculed me and let 3,000 people bully me online. Blocking you forever now. Sorry that I upset you with my jokes. Not sorry about your insecurities that you're going to have to live through." Someone says to OP, "That's absolutely hilarious. I wouldn't even be mad anymore. That guy has given you what's likely to be the single funniest ex-boyfriend story you'll ever get. I think you won the breakup before it even happened." I Work Hard says yes, most of the time, awkward breakups take a few months to age into funny anecdotes. Not this one though. Prison Lambshank says your ex is a real Walder Frey. Another update, OP says Paul has texted me now saying he will unblock me on Facebook and won't block my number if I stop entertaining the post about him and remove it. He says he does think we should still call it off for a while, but can still keep in touch if we resolve this. Someone said to OP on the back of this, "Please just reply to everything he texts you with Game of Thrones quotes now." Lucky Celt says, "I love this. When he asks you to take it down, say, 'Not today.'" Phobo says, "You know nothing, arsehole Paul." A couple of months later, OP came in with another update and says, "I can't post this as an update because Reddit locked the original post. I think maybe because of too many comments. Anyway, a few people on here may remember the post that gained a lot of attention on this forum about a guy I was dating who made the Game of Thrones theme negs towards me. If you didn't, here is the recap." And then I'll skip that bit because OP just basically recapped what we read, and then says, "Fast forward 1 month later, and I see Paul on Tinder, and super like him as a joke. He matched me back, and actually messaged me saying something really funny about all that had happened. We joked in a good-natured way about what went down, which eventually led us to hashing things out, and we got back together. And not long after officially becoming boyfriend and girlfriend, the whole Reddit post saga became a quirky story. One that we mostly keep to ourselves, and even a running joke between the two of us, and he definitely lightened up to it. I think the experience of it maybe made him take himself a lot less seriously and learn to see the funny side of things at better times. No, Paul didn't make any Game of Thrones jokes again. He moved into my place at the beginning of December when his lease ran out and things were great, but only for a week. Initially, we split the cost of everything evenly. However, Paul majorly upped his coffee habits due to the increased workload trying to make sales. But he even started drinking as much on the weekend. 90% of the time around the apartment, he always had a cup of tea or coffee in his hand. It never made him jittery or anything, but it made him stay up a couple of hours later each night, which was very disruptive to our normal nighttime routine. Also, it wasn't cheap coffee he was drinking. Plus, he would also get 2 takeaway coffees every day, or so he claimed, as well as him buying lunch at work every weekday. He apparently had no money to contribute to the groceries for the past month, yet he is buying takeaway coffees at lunch at work every weekday, as well as relatively expensive type of coffee to be drinking at home. But he said that if we were in this for the long term, I needed to understand that his job is stressful at this time of year. And so I felt too bad to ask him to stop buying his pleasures at work around this time of year, so paid for all the groceries myself. However, the worst part of the problem came when we went to my family's house for Christmas. He bought his own stupid brand of coffee with him to use. We were only there for 2 days, and so it was really awkward when we all had coffee and cocoa, and he would decline my family's offer of coffee and insisted on making his own separate one. We got into a huge fight later over this, and I told him he was being uptight and rude, and he told me I was looking for issues in him and that no one is perfect. On Saturday afternoon, he broke up with me. He told me that he started to emotionally shut down after the fight we had at Christmas, and he wanted to end things, and that we don't realistically have enough things in common. He was able to move out that day because he doesn't have that many belongings, and we only kept a couple of pieces of his furniture when he moved in. I'm completely heartbroken and haven't gone to work yet, and I feel taken advantage of. I don't understand how someone could change their opinion of me so drastically after one little fight. Obviously, it's over. I know it is, but it doesn't make it hurt less, and it just seems so out of the blue. TLDR, we got back together, but of course, threw it back in my face. That update really threw me as like, they broke up, and I was like, oh, wow, you know, move on to new things. And they got back together, and I was like, oh no, this isn't going to end well. But then the update started off well. I thought, oh, bloody hell, this is a refreshing change. And then, of course, no. And it was all these shenanigans over a 2-month relationship. I was like, really? Holy moly. Would you put up with that crap? Anyway, what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so, so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.